This is He Who Moans, Doctor Who Reviews. I only complain because I like Doctor Who, and I care. And I overanalyze too much because, whatever, it's just my opinion. So, here we are again, everybody. So, the Christmas specials have literally nothing to live up to. I'm not sure which one of them I've disliked the most, and I'm also not sure if I dislike the Christmas specials more than the responses I get when I say that I usually dislike the Christmas specials, regarding me being a horrible negative Scrooge, bringing everybody down on Christmas Day, when... Look, I can't help it, alright? I'm sorry for being a killjoy. But as far as I can see, the Christmas specials don't really need to put any effort in, as everybody's already in a good mood to begin with and will be kinder to it. Deny it all you like, but The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe had a positive reception. Like, would you really say this is good at any other time of the year? And they're also in an easier position because what else is there to do when it's on? Between 6 and 8 o'clock on Christmas Day requires absolutely no effort to get ratings, as your audience is basically trapped anyway. It's after Christmas dinner, whether you eat it in the day or night, presents have been opened, it's too cold to go anywhere and nothing's open, none of the other channels really have anything worthy of note, you're with your family and feeling all hazy and nostalgic, or are drinking heavily, so of course you're guaranteed millions of viewers just by being a broadcaster to begin with. So it doesn't really matter what they put out. Capaldi could literally be shitting in a bucket with a Santa hat on for 60 minutes, and you get the same result. Well, people probably would say something if that happened, but yeah. So yeah, let's play this game again, I guess. Yeah. It was just a joke, you know? I didn't really think they would actually go ahead and broadcast 60 minutes of Peter Capaldi shitting into a bucket. Wow, Nostradamus, eat your heart out. But in all seriousness, I thought Last Christmas totally sucked. But it sucked in a completely new way that I've never seen anyone manage before that, honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the level of extreme failure on display here. And to make matters worse, it's been getting good reviews and had a generally positive reception again. Oh joy, it's that time of year again when I get to come across like a miserable dick face. Whoopee!
You're as cuddly as a cactus, you're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch.
Okay, to start out with, we need to clarify a few things before I get into why I thought Last Christmas failed in every conceivable way. Number 1. Yes, you're allowed to like it as usual. I don't want to take that away from you. This is all my opinion. Let's move on. Number 2. I didn't go in wanting to hate it. I went in expecting to hate it. They're two very different things, and if you think that's enough reason to discount what I'm about to say, switch this video off now, as you were never going to listen to me anyway. You'd be wasting your time. And number 3, Christmas is not an excuse. I know I'm going to get that reason fired at me, as it happens every time I complain about the Christmas specials. It's Christmas. Would you want them to do something dark or deep at Christmas? It's a show for all the family and the kids on Christmas Day. It's perfectly fine to be broad and friendly and kitschy and lame at this time of year, etc, etc. No, Christmas doesn't make it okay for the writers to slack off and ignore basic tenets of storytelling, and also, kids are not stupid, okay? Kids don't need to be patronised with something safe and pandering. If you give them a good story with a consistent tone, they will take it, and so will everyone else. And if you have to be emotionally confrontational on Christmas Day because the story requires it to be, so be it. Everyone will accept it. Stop treating people like they're soufflés. So, without any further ado, I think Last Christmas is the shoddiest script that Stephen Moffat has ever turned in, which I don't want to be saying that. He used to be one of my favourite writers, as I keep saying. Like, I don't believe he looked back over this once. Nothing meshes together. It flips between tones in such a jarring way and feels like the next thing that's come off the top of his head. In fact, a character, can't remember the name again, actually reviews Last Christmas for us during the episode.
Come on, this is mental. This is totally not happening.
That sentence totally sums up how I feel about this episode. So, Last Christmas was in a tricky situation to begin with, and that situation pretty much guaranteed it would be a bit of a jarring mess. It was because of the word Christmas, and it ended up summing up one major criticism of New Who that I've levelled off it for quite some time now, to do with tone. This is a big reason why New Who gets so much shit from people like me, because tonally, it's totally all over the shop. Tone is how a piece of media feels, and some shows keep a consistent tone each week in order to keep a consistent level of emotional weight and viewer engagement. Look at Game of Thrones, one of the most consistent TV shows ever made in terms of tone and quality. But with New Who, I like that it allows for variety. You don't always know what you're going to get, but when it's so tonally inconsistent, you do start to notice it, and it annoys the shit out of some of us. Just look at my reasoning here. We've gone from Danny's been cybernised and died, Clara's left the TARDIS, we're downbeat and melancholy, to Santa's little elves the very next episode. These two events don't sit well right next to each other, and the emotional weight of the end of the last series was always going to hang over this special, which is why maybe the next episode after that ending, being a Christmas special, and particularly a Christmas special featuring Clara, who's just had a bereavement, was a bad move. Because everyone's going to think, oh, it should be happy and upbeat because Christmas, while handling Clara carefully, but New Who does this quite often, and it means lots of us find it really off and on. The problem with Moffat's desire to make Doctor Who this long-running narrative of HBO-style drama that he's been trying to do for some time now is New Who's idea it shouldn't have a sense of consistency in how its episodes feel. We allow for variety, of course we do, but look at this here. We went from fairy tale in the Forest of the Night with a massive group of kids and child-friendly tone to it, directly to Danny dies in a car crash and Don't Cremate Me the very next episode. Kitschy and light-hearted, the horrors of death. Like, New Who does this all the time. Vincent and the Doctor, a tragic tale of depression and suicide. Next week, The Lodger, Doctor Who as a blokey sitcom. The Impossible Planet, dark, spacey, Lovecraftian horror. Love and Monsters, quirky sitcom about Skywatchers. And hell, I'm not saying don't have it like that. It allows for a lot of variety, but this tone inconsistency has stretched over to being an internal episode-specific problem, which means some episodes, Moffat's recent ones in particular, don't really know what they want to be, and if you try and be all things to all people, you come across as patronising, and worse, pandering. And Moffat's incredibly jerky when it comes to changing tone. Look at this bit here in the shitty Narnia Christmas special. Moffat does an over-the-top, jokey, happy, jolly scene, and then all of a sudden...
Lily and Cyril's father. My husband is dead and they don't know yet.
Because they are going to be sad later.
And then we're all happy and whimsical, and it's an alien planet. I mean, you can have artistic license to allow for literally anything to happen in your script as long as it works in context. Just depends on how it's done. Rules are made to be broken after all. Just, if you go from A to B and then back to A to B in the space of like 1 or 2 lines of dialogue, if I'm not on board, then I'm going to stay very not on board, because I don't know what mood you want me to be in. But that's why lots of us struggle to take it seriously and find it patronising, because there's far too many instances of New Who being too afraid to stay at a consistent tone in case it upsets people. There's far too much hand-holding going on. And Last Christmas sums this up entirely within the first 12 minutes, which, it's about as far removed from the Moffat I remember from The Empty Child as it's possible to get. And the argument of, oh, it's Christmas as an excuse for this, no, watch this play out with me. So, we're in an Arctic base. We get introduced to our characters via some of the hokiest dialogue ever as this lady's about to enter the hospital wing.
Shut up. We're all depending on you.
We know you won't let us down. I need the toilet.
No, you don't. We're monitoring your bodily functions.
And how are you monitoring that? Because that's rude.
That is perverted.
And then Capaldi comes in and starts doing one of his listen monologues, and suddenly it's all serious and dramatic.
Pink, what is Danny Pink up to right now? He's probably flirting with your neighbour or texting women of low moral character.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare say that.
I was in...
Danny Pink is dead.
And then all of a sudden, look, there's a tangerine, and suddenly there's toys, and Santa's riding Rudolph. I mean, is the problem here that Moffat's too aware of his audience, thinking that if we don't jerk back to wacky every 5 minutes or so, the kids will get bored? Because when you zigzag between tones like this, then damn right am I going to notice it, and damn right is it going to impair my ability to give a shit about any of it and take it seriously. He just jerks between silly and serious so off-pace that he never establishes precisely what mood he wants to set. What I'm saying here is, this bit...
Right now, he's probably flirting with your neighbour or texting women of low moral character.
...does not sit right next to this bit.
Yours. It's a balloon animal. That's a toy gun. Yeah, well, at least it's unsuitable for children under 4.
It'd be like, say, if you were watching a performance of Hamlet, and suddenly in the middle of Act 3, suddenly everybody turns into Hello Kitty for a scene and starts performing that instead. And then in the very next scene, everybody just returns to the action and everything's normal and it's Hamlet again. But, you know, the director just did that so the kid forced to come by his parents sat in the front row doesn't get too bored, when if you do that, then literally everyone else is going to go, why the fuck did you suddenly stop Hamlet and start doing Hello Kitty and then flip back again and expect us not to notice? And these tonal flips are so poorly paced that none of the characters have room to breathe, so none of the actors or actresses have a chance to have any impact. I remember no one's names again, let alone what they brought to the story. In terms of literally everything else about the episode, which I'm not going to spend long on because the amorphous mass of the atrocious script has kind of eaten any craftsmanship that might have gone into this. Last Christmas is well produced and well directed, as much as you could with this script. I like the dream crab design, lots of the shots really stick out, it looks fairly pretty, it's well acted. There's sort of a good bit about 25 minutes in as we do some stuff about the facehuggers. I actually quite like the dream crab idea. There's a good Stephen Moffat idea in there, but it's buried deep in the sediment of 5 tons of shit piled on top of it. There's a pretty good 7 minutes where it becomes a horror story again when Clara's being chased by the dream crabs. I also didn't totally hate the Danny scene like lots of people seem to. I quite like some of the stuff with the blackboards. You could have made a cool Chimes of Midnight-y sort of episode out of that. It actually reminded me of the B episode of Futurama, which is always a positive thing. That's my favourite episode of Futurama. In fact, this sequence would have made for a decent episode in its own right, with regard to Clara trying to come to terms with Danny's death. I mean, it hits you hard with the character that's dead turning up in some freaky dream sequences. The episode I'm imagining would kind of run like the Buffy episode Conversations with Dead People. You know, it'd be pretty interesting and emotionally involving. Then it just stops doing that and suddenly we're back at the Arctic base again, doing and saying nothing more of consequence because it's all a dream or whatever. Okay, Santa being the product of dreams, fine, good enough justification for him. The dream crabs, fine, good enough idea. But you want to know what makes me think this is literally a first draft?
Dreams. They're funny. They're disjointed. They're silly. They're full of gaps. Because we're dreaming, all of us. This base isn't real. None of us are actually standing in the room.
Okay, when he said that, I just saw Moffat stopping writing 45 pages into the script and he's gone, okay, this is a load of jarring bullshit that makes no sense. But why is it a load of jarring bullshit that makes no sense? No. It's a dream, that's it. Then the Doctor says that dreams are stupid and make no sense. That's why everything that's happened so far is stupid and makes no sense. Like, why are people saying that this is clever? And no, it didn't make me think that the previous 44 minutes were retrospectively justifiable. I had the, oh for fuck's sake Moffat moment again. And then loads of different situations keep playing out and they keep getting revealed to be just dreams within dreams within dreams, and it becomes far too overcomplicated again, which sadly is now Moffat's trademark. And again, being overcomplicated is not the same thing as being clever. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 of these fake-out moments would have been fine, but I just couldn't get involved with it because he just kept chucking new convoluted ideas at it and then revealing that was just a dream, so it doesn't matter. Like, if the episode itself doesn't care about its own new ideas by deciding they were just dreams anyway, why should I care? What was the point in watching them? And none of these dreams mesh together. People are saying that these endless dream within a dream things are an homage to Inception, but here's the thing. The reason Inception worked was the dreams meshed together. It was one plot that flowed from start to finish, With lots of other stuff intersecting it, yes, but most importantly, it all meshed together in the end, and each bit of it meant something and tied together. Most media that explores dreams and generally have a loose relationship with reality to begin with do that so as not to invalidate what's happened so far. Look at the Buffy episode Restless. Perfect example of how to have a very loose relationship with reality, but at the same time have a plot to follow and get invested in that doesn't invalidate its past scenes by revealing what just happened wasn't real, so it doesn't matter and who cares in the end anyway. But here, if you just keep invalidating the previous scene over and over again, what was the purpose in having that scene to begin with? None at all. Like, I would literally be able to cut out around half the episode's runtime and it would still make the same amount of sense. He just seemed to pull that explanation out of his arse 45 pages in as a means of justifying the previous 44 minutes being a random burst of jarring nonsense. But that explanation just led me to ask, what was the point of the previous 44 minutes then? It didn't make me appreciate it retrospectively. Oh yeah, I did crack up at this bit though, but I'm not sure if I was supposed to.
Is it a Mr. Clara?
No. But there were plenty of proposals.
They all turned you down.
I turned them down. I taught in every country in Europe. I learned to fly a plane.
And then Clara got very old, and she taught in every country, and she learnt to fly a whooshy plane in the sky, and she was the bestest teacher in the whole world. The end. But then that was a dream, and she goes travelling with the Doctor again. Okay, so we've got Clara for Series 9, for some reason. Like, I swear he's just doing this to annoy us now, like Jar Jar being in Attack of the Clones. It feels like a fuck you to those of us who didn't accept her, but look, Moffat, I accepted Clara by about halfway into Season 8. You had your second chance with her, and Jamie Matheson did the job for you in Mummy and Flatline, and I accepted her, and then you had a fine ending for her character. It was one of few parts of Death in Heaven that I actually liked and thought really fit with her. I would have accepted her in the Christmas special too, if it was just, say, her trying to come to terms with Danny's death, like with that idea that you threw in the middle of this one, by a series of dream sequences, and she comes to terms with her grief in the end, and she and the Doctor end on good terms. Which, yes, people would have accepted that at Christmas, but nope, she's still here. Look, you can't sugarcoat her eventual departure for the kids that can't handle change to such an extreme extent. New Who has a huge problem when it comes to letting go of its characters in case it's too heartbreaking for the little kids. They have endless cameos or false endings to cushion the blow, but guess what? Kids will have to get used to the idea of loss someday, and also guess what? So do you. And it's got to the point where it's totally undermining everything you do with her. So when she finally does go, no one's going to buy it, and it won't have any impact. Like I've said before, Moffat is the boy who cried bad wolf. The ending of Death in Heaven was fine. Everyone would get used to Clara being gone, and we just move on and tell another assistant story, change things up. She was a character that didn't work at all, then sort of started working, and had a bit of a tragic downbeat ending. What is the artistic purpose of doing more of her? So yeah, Last Christmas is a well-produced, well-directed episode, professionally made and performed by really talented people, with one of the most shockingly poor scripts I've ever heard. Like, shout at me all you want over this review, people in the comments. I just thought this script needed a shit ton more work before they actually went ahead and made it.